Hello, this is my corner tea bar, and here we are again. These are my supplements, by the way. I guess you can see all of that. I put uh, Oriental Leaves, very awesome on Taoism, Black Label, push one cake there instead of the Daji that you can even see, but it's on the other side. The Daji 7542 that I have aging there. Anyhow, talking about Sheng. I don't have any shank from them yet. I will do get some at some point, Oriental Leaf that is, but I have shank from um, Farmer Leaf. And to tell you the truth, it's really good stuff. So this has that dried fruit tone, a little almost like tobacco-y in a sense. This is Jingmai Gulan, and I think that the harvest was on 2025 in the spring. In today's video, we're gonna talk about, I don't know if it's the last article that Oriental Leaf has in their website, but it's about the bitterness in tea. So I'll link it in the description. And it caught my attention because it didn't just like talk about the bitterness in tea and how to know when it's good bitterness and bad bitterness, or how to understand the process of it and all of that. I think especially important in Sheng tea appreciation, um, which reminds me, I haven't tried their Shengs. I am not a connoisseur on Sheng, but I can tell you this is very nice. So when the when I warmed up the guy one and then I shook my dried leaves and smelled that dry fruit aroma, I instantly salivated. I'm kind of salivated right now by talking about it, and it is still present on the wet leaves. I see a couple of stems and here and there, but for the most part, the integrity of the leaves is there. Small leaves, that is. It is not very, to my taste, sensitive, overly sensitive to temperature or to going over 20 seconds. You know, I definitely did things in between brews and I overbrewed it. And you may be wondering why you're using a Gangdo Bay if you're by yourself. Well, I don't like strainers. I think I don't like it. So I pour in a cup in a Gangdo Bay to basically let the small little pieces of tea go to the bottom, and then I pour it in my cup, the master cup. And there's something I love about this Farmer Leaf tea. That bitterness, I like it. I like it very much, and I think it's like thirst quenching. It's I like to take a sip that wraps around my whole tongue and teeth and the back teeth back there, the judgment one that I have no judgment, I guess. No, I do. I do have judgment. I didn't take them out. They're still back there, my judgment stuff. It's so, this tea reminds me a bit of like eating that grapevine dendrils. You know the dendrils from the grapevine. There are grimy stuff. When I was a kid, I used to go and pick the little dendrils. I don't know if they're called dendrils, the little things that wrap around stuff, and I'll just chew on them. And I like that flavor a lot. And it's astringent. It's an astringent, sort of bitter. I don't know what kind of stuff I was looking towards to do that. But an auntie told me to do it, and I liked it, and I did it. And I didn't die. And there's something about Sheng that lately has been recalling that. We talked about that the other day, about how flavors can bring you back into memories. But enough of that tangential conversation, because the whole thing was about bitterness. Although we've been talking about bitterness, better check. Um, I would say that I agree with their statement that good bitterness, you feel it in your mouth and it changes. It is like they call it live, and it makes you salivate. Such is the interaction of catechins and caffeine with your saliva. I think that the Chinese name for that is Shengjin. 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 Right? Um, and it's part of the process of the coming back of that sweetness, from bitterness to sweetness, with your breath and the exhalation, how all of that plays into that sweetness, which I really enjoy. How all of my thorax and like all of this area becomes impregnated with tea and the flavor and the whole thing, you know. These shanks are particularly good at making me want to do things, which I have a project out there that I'm building in the sun. And yeah, I'm drinking hot drinks right before going to 85 degrees and 70 something percent humidity. Somehow it helps. That's your strainer right there, you know. You can see I've been straining a lot of tea. So one thing they talked about was the fact that in life there things have to cost you a little bit of effort to get the real good, the real lasting good. Um, and I've seen this as a parent, and I've seen this with myself, and how we are caught by cheap dopamine release by the means of sugar and social media and likes and this and that and shorts. But how awesome it is when I see my son learning a song in guitar, or like fixing something, and or helping me build something, or planting stuff and then reaping the fruit and eating what we planted or whatever, eating the animals that we raised very very nicely. You know, we have given them a good life, and then yeah, one bite a day, and then we eat those animals, the flesh. We really feel like we are welcoming these animals into become part of ourselves. You know, it's not easy to butcher. I never look forward to that. But not going away from the subject, still in the subject. That bitterness is very sweet, to know that they lived well and not in a concentration camp for animals. They were treated kindly and they had a lot of freedom, and then we enjoy and leave nothing on the plate. The same with the vegetables we grow, or the gifts from the land, which are things that volunteer, that are wonderful nutrition. And not going any further, the flavor of the amazing plant called dandelion is bitter. But when I know that there is dandelion in my salad with the food that I'm eating and it's fresh and bitter, I do know that that is giving me such nutrition is, I think, 15 times more nutritious than a romaine lettuce, um, like 20 something times more than an iceberg lettuce. So, with that said, there is a reward, there is a sweetness and in that. And I think that it is important to remember that we live on planet Earth, and the planet Earth is made out of inanimate objects and animate, like sentient beings. And if you look around and you recognize the fact that all this beautiful diversity of species have the shape they have and they behave the way they behave and the colors they have and the flowers and beautiful birds and this and that, the trees, everything, all of that is alive has that diversity because there was the struggle to preserve the species and the struggle to be on this planet and coexist and be predated upon and predate upon. So without that struggle, life would not be what it is. And being able to have some real struggle is a blessing. At the end, you do really understand how it feels to not struggle. When you can take a break, when you can say like, "Oh, things are good," you really mean it. And then you see people that everything is good on them, but they're struggling, and they borrow other people's struggle to be upset. And they create the like the struggle for themselves, and they craft all these ideas for which they are a victim. It's because we need it. We go crazy if we don't have it. We create it. We imagine it. We have to try to do things. We have to be happy Sisyphus. We have to push that rock up the hill and smile at the same time. That's the trick. And in tea, we find this, especially in Sheng and um, the varieties that are similar to it. We find this metaphor of, or like analogy of, the fact that you could just put it down and be like, when you don't know, like, oh, why would you be drinking something like this, right? If I can go and get a Red Bull or a Monster drink and be hyped in caffeine and whatever they put in it, taurine and sugar, high fructose syrup. Well, a black belt is a white belt that didn't give up. So that is a person working, struggling, and learning kung fu of that type of martial art. And we're trying to do this in a good way, right? And we may make mistakes. I don't even know. Did you count how many I passed? Probably more than that. I have to tell you, it's more than seven. You can keep going with this thing. You just put more hotter water and longer steeps, and you'll keep going. Um, but I wanted to share that because I think it's a good mental exercise to try to see the analogies in the open book of life. We don't need anything holy or spectacular to show us within a temple any of the wisdom that is right there for us to see. It is found in nature and food and the way everything eats and poops and grows. And all of that's out there just to be observed, watch nature and learn from it. you know. Um, I remember this story of the student that finally was able um, to go and learn from a master. I think he was a Buddhist master. He was born from a lady that did not know who his father was. So when he introduced himself to the master, his mom has told him to not be ashamed of that and just say that I don't know who my father was. So I'm no one basically, and the master was like finally someone who doesn't have an ego and thinks that he's someone because of something that had nothing to do with him. So I accepted him as a student, and that was great. But the first thing that sent him to do was to go and take care of a number of cattle. I think it was 400 heads of cattle in nature by himself. He's never raised cattle. He's never done any of that kind of husbandry, and he had to come back when he had 1,000 heads of cattle. So many years later, he came back. He was indeed very wise, um, and the master recognized that and asked him, "What's you know, what's that?" And he said, "Well, nature taught me, but I am here to hear from yourself." And the master was like, "That is what I had to teach you." You know what I mean? Just go and learn from nature. Anyhow, it's a funny story, but imagine how bitter that was, and the sweetness that story has in at the end is what like the dude was able to understand life, be content, and what else? I mean, don't you see that people that have a lot of cargo, like people say, or wealth, are not happier than people that are poor? And in fact, I think there are statistics that is like statistically talking, more happy people have less stuff. So embrace the suck. And with that, learn how to appreciate the bitterness of tea in the good way. Now, what is the bad way of having a bitterness in tea? Well, I haven't had that much of like really bad bitter tea, but um, it just doesn't go away. It's just not possible. You kind of like feel it like in the angle of your throat and your mouth. If I can explain myself, that's how I felt it, and it's always been there. It's like a couple of cheap food that I bought on Amazon. Actually, there is that thing that I just can't get rid of, and it's just so bad. And now that I know better food, thanks to Oriental Leaf, I'm like, man, there's no way I'm drinking that crap anymore. They, I have a couple of those bricks down there. I don't even want to put it in my compost. I don't even know what the fuck is in it. I feel bad even giving it away. So maybe if I don't like someone, you're gonna end up with a whole brick of food, that tastes like death. But that's it. I appreciate you stayed and listened to my rant. And please go and check all of these articles that Oriental Leaf is putting out there. A lot of really good education for whoever needs it, including me. I read them and I learn. It's good stuff. Well, thank you very much and have a good one.